Welcome back to the Wet Dreamz Podcast. This is take two of this episode as our audio got corrupted or whatever. Anyways, I'm your host, Jose Gonzalez, and I mainly deal with guys with out of control sexual behavior. I also see couples and occasional female clients as well. And this is...
Hi, I'm Dr. Hinman. I also am a therapist sex therapist also who sees men with out of control sexual behavior. I see couples for various sexual issues. And so welcome back.
Yeah. So we've been doing this like 5-part series. On this time was infidelity. We talked about pornography infidelity. We talked about sexual fantasies and how that plays a part into infidelity and cheating and stuff like that. And these next 2 episodes, we're going to go to the after. The first, we kind of broke it down to 4 things. There's like the initial fallout when someone is unfaithful, or basically when they get caught, essentially. That's often when we see our guys. And then also the initial impact that has on the guy. So we typically see the guys that have done it. But the initial impact that has had on their partners. Mm-hmm. And the next episode, we'll be talking about rebuilding the trust after all that initial fallout and all that crap goes down. So yeah, we're excited. So this will be the last 2 episodes of the 5-part series, and we got a bunch of other series going on. I'm really excited about our next series about parenting. I have 2 young kids, so talking to kids about sex. That's one that I'm excited about. But for now, we have the 5-part going on first. So what for you? What do you see as some of the reasons that our guys, again, because we end up seeing the guys that have done something? Not saying it's just guys, but that's often who we see. What are some reasons that those guys have for being unfaithful? Or what are some of the reasons that have influenced them that you've seen?
There are a lot of reasons. I think that it was the opportunity was there. Mm-hmm. And so I think another, so opportunity, and then another reason is, that they don't think they're going to get caught. Mm. I thought I could get away with it. I didn't think anybody was going to know. And I think it's important to point out that when we talk about this, it's people, at least from the clients that I've seen over all the years that I've been doing this, they don't say, I cheated because I don't love my partner. Mm-hmm. So they still love their partner, and then they just did this thing, this bad choice, right? But it doesn't mean that they don't love their partner. And so you said, what are reasons that people cheat? So that's a reason.
That's not one of the reasons.
That's not a reason why they cheat. But I mean, so many people believe that, and the partners of my clients believe that. And it's really hard to convince them, no, your partner still loves you. Mm-hmm. It's just that they made this bad choice. I think that when we dig down deeper into looking at the reasons that people cheat, it's lack of affirmation, lack of validation, lack of respect, it's stuff like that. And so they're searching outside of the relationship to get their needs met. Mm-hmm. They're, like I said, their need for validation or affirmation, or, to feel respected and wanted and needed. And, I've had clients say to me, the only time my partner talks to me is to tell me what I'm doing wrong. Mm. And so they're gonna look at, I shouldn't make it sound like destiny, right? But I think some people make the mistake of searching outside of their relationship for those for those feelings, when it really should be coming from their partner primarily. And so, and then another thing that happens is when the partner of our clients, when they catch their partner doing something wrong, like looking at porn, if that's wrong in their relationship, then they tend to affirm them less, mm-hmm. right? Because why am I going to affirm him when he's messing up? Well, if you don't find something to affirm, then they're going to mess up more, because they're searching and yearning for that feeling of acceptance and love and validation.
Right.
So I think that that's really the reason why people cheat, but nobody likes to hear that part.
Yeah. Well, it's a hard pill to swallow. Like, they did this, but they still love me. You know, at least the partners of the guys that come in, like, how can they actually do something like that and still love me at the same time? There's no way, you know. And logically, exactly, and logical brain, like, I can see how that makes sense, but obviously it's more complicated than that. Like you said, I don't know. I've never heard a guy come in and say, like, yeah, I was really, like, I don't love my partner, so I really just wanted to get after them and make them hurt. Like, I've never heard that. I mean, I'm sure there's guys that do that.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Well, they're not going to come for counseling. They're just going to.
That's true. There might be more.
Yeah. The only way I can kind of get people to understand that is I talk to them about food. I talk about food a lot.
Yeah, same. What else is there?
Right?
Food and sex.
And it's not a perfect analogy, but I always say to people, you know, I really like tacos. I really like tacos a lot, right? Yeah. And so I eat tacos a lot. But once in a while I might eat pizza, right? Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean that I don't love tacos, just because I eat pizza sometimes. Again, like I said, it's not a perfect analogy because I'm not married to tacos.
I can see a partner saying, "Did you put your penis in that pizza or
what?" Right. But it helps people understand. I can, you know, I might really, really love this, but then I also might do this. Right. Another analogy that I use with people is, you know, a month ago or a month and a half ago, we had, New Year's, and people make resolutions sometimes. Mm-hmm. And one of the most popular resolutions is to lose weight. And so, but then, a couple of weeks after New Year's, somebody brings donuts into work. And does that mean that you didn't want to be on a diet just because you ate a donut? Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. So you may have really intended on remaining pure to your diet. Mm-hmm. But then some, temptation was there. And, you're at work, so your family's not going to know that you ate a donut. And so you don't think you're going to get caught. And so you eat a donut. And so that kind of helps people just kind of understand he can still love you even though he's cheated. Right.
Those two things can happen simultaneously, and you can equally feel those two things, whether that's the initial resolve. And that's something we see with our guys with both that and pornography, where it's like in these moments you can have that resolve, and that's 100% true for you in that moment. Mm-hmm. Then another moment presents itself, and it is almost seemingly like that that initial resolve goes out the window, and those two things can happen at the same time, where it's complicated. I mean, it's not that simple. We're not just bad or good humans, Yep.
And it, like what you were just talking about there, it kind of reminds me that it's almost like there's a healthy and unhealthy part of your brain. Or like some clients will say the angel and devil thing on my shoulder. And so it's like the healthy part of their brain shuts off because they shut it off, right? Mm-hmm. And then the unhealthy part takes over. This is going to be fun, and it's going to feel good, and nobody's going to know, and I'm not going to hurt anybody because nobody's ever going to find out. And, I can get some validation and affirmation through doing this thing. But the bad part is when somebody does find out, and then the partner is hurt, but also the person who did the infidelity is hurt because they hurt their partner, and then that hurts them. And then there's lots of shame that goes along with that. And so it is a complicated factor, and there's an interplay of lots of things going on at the same time. And it's not just, I didn't want to be in this relationship anymore. It was, that my emotions, whatever, I got feeling overwhelmed. And so this was an opportunity to make me feel better temporarily. And then that whole healthy part of their brain shuts off. And it's not even, for some of my clients, their conscience or whatever you want to call that is not active during those moments because they're only drawn to to this behavior that they think is going to make them feel better, but then it doesn't.
Well, and sometimes even, and I think it can be both. Like sometimes our guys that come in, they'll use porn not to cheat or whatever. Instead of cheating, they use porn. But then there's also guys that are like that part of their system to ramp themselves up to be able to do something in person or go to the massage parlor, whatever the behavior is. Part of their ramping up is to use porn to kind of shut that part of the brain off. I've seen that too. Yes. I feel like it goes both ways.
Exactly. And then even before that, so yeah, they're using porn so that they don't cheat. But even before they use porn, I've had guys talk to me about, they go on Instagram or they go on Snapchat or Reddit or like YouTube, because people can find porn everywhere. And so, like, for example, they might go on Instagram and then they start doing what I call chasing hashtags, right? So it's not full-blown nudity on Instagram. I mean, although there are some, but I mean, I'm talking about when they first, in this example, they're not going into full-blown porn. They're looking at, bikini snowboarding babes or something. Don't follow that hashtag.
That was oddly specific.
Yeah, because I've had people tell me that.
I'm writing that.
Right, fantastic. And so then they look at that, and then they look at the hashtags that people have posted on their pictures, and then they start chasing those hashtags, and then the reason I'm describing this is because that's how the healthy part of the brain is shut off, because they're doing this like fringe behavior that's not within the confines of their relationship. It's not okay, but it's not super wrong. It's just sort of wrong. And so then the more that they do that, the more it erodes their ability to stop their behavior. And so then pretty soon they're into full-blown porn because their unhealthy part of their brain took over. And I think the same thing happens even with full-blown infidelity, is it kind of starts in this more innocent sort of arena, and then it just kind of snowballs into this to full-blown infidelity. But I do want to point out, I always try to give these caveats, that just because somebody is chasing Instagram hashtags, or just because somebody's even looking at porn, doesn't mean they're going to cheat, right? It's not a linear causality thing that we're talking about here. It's that we're just talking about these are things that we have learned through working with people, that sometimes this happens. It doesn't certainly happen every single time, and it doesn't happen to the majority of people who look at porn or we're on Instagram.
Yeah, and that's I think that's episode 1 of this new season. Go check that one out. We definitely go more further into the relationship between porn and infidelity. So it doesn't necessarily mean that, but then sometimes it is a tool to get there. So it's like interesting, like both. So the thing has happened, whether that's you're cheating with a coworker. I keep bringing up massage parlors, but a lot of our guys, I feel like, do those kind of things, like, or like prostitutes and stuff. Anyway, so that thing happens, the partner has caught them. What are some things at the initial fallout, initial thing when they come into therapy? What are some things you see, or some things that, to be aware of, or some, I don't know if it's tips, but like, what are some things to focus on at the beginning of that process, do you think?
Yeah, there's so in counselor training, we use the term offending partner for the person who had the affair, and then the injured partner is the partner of the person who had the affair. Right. And so from the injured partner, I see a lot of hurt, a lot of anger, frustration, thinking that their partner doesn't love them anymore, thinking this relationship is over, that they're shopping for a new partner. Those are things that I hear.
What's wrong with me?
Yep. I'm not good enough. I don't look good enough. I
can't do those things. Yep.
I don't do the things, right?
Yep.
And really it has nothing to do with any of that. It really doesn't. I know that that's hard to hear, but it really does not. When infidelity happens, it's not because they don't love their partner. And included in that is it's not because their partner didn't look good
Mm-hmm.
enough or do the right thing sexually.
Right,
I'm
right,
sure
and that's
that-
a huge one.
Yes.
If you had just given them sex more, then they wouldn't be stepping out or whatever. That's a huge thing.
Yep. And people who are supposed to know what they're talking about have said those things, right? Like if you were giving him more sex, then he wouldn't do this, and it doesn't have anything to do with that at all. Not with the people that I've seen, anyway. And so from the offending partner, the one who had the affair, things that I hear are this great deal of shame, a lot of guilt. And shame and guilt are not the same thing. Google it, figure it out. And so I see a lot of shame. I see a lot of guilt. I see also a lot of anger from the offending partner because of this constant shaming that's happening. Then they lash out in anger,
right?
Towards the injured partner because they don't want to keep being reminded of their failures, right? And because that's what my clients call it. I don't like the F word, but they call it failures, right? And they to get them to stop reminding them of the failure that they feel that they had, they're going to lash out at the injured partner. So now you're adding emotional hurt on top of this infidelity because you don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, and there's when we went through this episode the first time, there's this sense of like relief as well too. I think the theme that I see with our guys is like it's almost like they want to drop it off, like here I did this, okay, and then they want to just let it go, just leave it there in their partner's lap, kind of, because there's both the shame, it's hard to talk about it and all that, and they don't want to be reminded of their bad choices, but then there's also a juxtaposition of like relief because they sometimes almost wanted to get caught or whatever. This relief of like, oh, okay, I don't have to be holding this around anymore, or like finally someone found out, like, and I can now do what I need to do or whatever, be better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like both of those culminate in like, oh, here you go. Here's the hurt. See you later. Yep. You know what I mean?
And the way I describe that to people, because I do see that a lot, and so the way that I describe that, another analogy, is that. I tell them, have you ever been to a fancy hotel and it has glass elevators? And, your room is on the 14th floor but you're in the lobby and you realize you forgot your wallet. And so you text your partner who is on the 14th floor and you're like, hey, can you bring my wallet down? And so, she starts coming down in the elevator, but she didn't answer you right away. So you're like, oh, she didn't get it. And so you get in the elevator and you go up to the 14th floor, which gets past each other in this glass elevator, right? And you wave to each other, but now you're on the 14th floor and she's in the lobby. And so what does that have to do with what we're talking about?
Don't lose your wallet. No, just kidding.
Remember your wallet. But what happens is when you are secretly looking at porn or you've secretly had an affair with somebody, you're in the lobby. You're on the floor 0 or 1 or whatever it goes down to, right? So because you're hiding things and you know that you're doing things that you shouldn't do and all that kind of stuff. So you're at the low point, right? And your partner is cruising along,
right? Thinking the relationship's really good. We're at a good space. Yeah.
We love each other, and this is our happily ever after, and this is us, kind of thing. So they're cruising along on the 14th floor, and then when you tell them or they discover that you've had infidelity, their life crashes, right? So they're coming down. While you're simultaneously going up, because as soon as you're found out, you don't have to keep those secrets anymore. You don't have to hide and manipulate people and lie to people. Your life starts to get better the minute that you're found out, where your partner's life got worse the minute that they found out. Yep. So you traded places, and that happens. And I tell people, like, you need to get off on the 7th floor and have a conversation so you can get your wallet back and then get in the same elevator and go where you need to go. And stop doing the opposite.
Yes, right, exactly. So then, as the offending partner, especially early on, I think the big thing is like understanding that you're in different elevators, or your partner is gonna be down on the lobby sometimes, and then sometimes it might feel like, oh, you guys are back on level 8 now
Yep.
for a little bit, like, oh, things feel nice, and then randomly the elevator goes back to 0. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like, you've created this yo-yo, especially in the beginning, the yo-yoing effect. So you have to stick with the ride. You have to be there for them, and you have to understand that it's not gonna be a linear lobby to 14 ride.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And often when the offending partner is discovered and that secret is up, that's the last time they want to talk about it.
Right.
Because their life started to feel better now.
Yeah.
Like, each day it's getting a little bit better and a little bit better. And they don't want to talk about that because they don't want to go back down to the bottom. Right? But for the injured partner, it can be anything that reminds them. It could be a smell. It could be some sound that they heard that flashes them back to the trauma that they experienced of discovering this affair. So they're going to be right back down to the bottom again. And hopefully over time, it lasts less and less. You spend less and less time in the bottom, right?
Right.
And then you do spend more time on floor 7 or 8 or whatever.
Right.
And you can repair that, and you can recover from infidelity. Some couples do not. So it's not 100% success rate. And really, every person has their own limit to what they can take. And, I've seen couples when they come in, and I'm thinking they're not going to make it. But they do.
Yeah.
And then I've seen other couples where I'm like, I think you guys can overcome this. And then they don't.
And then they don't. Right. It's a gnarly ride.
It is. Yeah. And every person has different kind of thresholds for what they can get past and what they can't get past, and deal breakers and all those kinds of things. And I've seen some people survive some stuff that's been pretty gnarly, like you said, where I'm just internally, I don't do it, so they can see it. But inside, I'm just shaking my head, going, "There's no way."
Yeah.
But I've had people make it, and it's really, I think one of the keys is, you didn't ask this question, but I think one of the keys is like listening to your partner. Both partners need to listen and actually hear what your partner is saying and hear what they're not saying. And hopefully with a good therapist, it'll get them what they're not saying for them to say it. And so, just listening to each other and responding to the emotions of your partner and not taking that personally. Not taking what your partner's feeling personally, but as a way to learn more about them and learn how to both of you to get your needs met. I tell couples all the time, my job is to make both of you happy. And I believe that is possible, or I wouldn't be doing this job. Right? Yeah, we're going to talk about some pretty awful things, and you're going to get hurt, and there's going to be lots of anger and screaming and stuff like that. But, the end goal is to make both of you happy, whether that's together or separate. But, my job is to help you to be happy.
Exactly. And I think the key there is like togetherness, you know what I mean? And not, it's that fine line again that we talked about earlier. Like, it wasn't your fault that your partner had the infidelity or whatever. But then now what are you going to do together that's going to improve that system, because you can't do the same things you were doing leading up to that, to the issue that happened, because that didn't help. Right. So together, whether that's you're both in the lobby and our offending partner is responding not defensively, and you're down there with your partner, or you're both a little bit higher, whatever, you know what I mean? You're doing it together. You have to do it together. Yep. You know what I mean? Yep. And I think that defensiveness thing is a big one, especially we talk specifically for our guys, like how you respond. The offending partner, I'm assuming it's the offending partner is the guys that come in here to us. How you respond to your partner makes a huge difference. If you're defensive, or if you're, another thing I find with guys is they'll let out a little bit of information here, they like, and I don't want to hurt them too much, so I'll just say this little thing then the next time it comes around, it's like, oh, but you didn't say it. You didn't say this part of it,
Right.
or you left out this part. And now the partner's just hurt all over again.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
Yep.
as the offending guy, I think trying to be as transparent as possible. Obviously, there's things you truly and forget, but often it happens where you just kind of siphon out a little, you know, you let a little, but then that doesn't help always.
Well, and then that's counted as a lie, right? To your partner, because that does happen a lot, what you're saying.
Tons.
Where they just tell them, you know, a quarter of the real story, and thinking that, well, that's enough. And then my partner already had this huge reaction to a quarter of what I did. I'm not going to tell them the other 3/4. But then when the injured partner does find that out, they count that as a lie, right? That I thought you were being truthful with me. I thought I could start to trust you again. And now I've been hurt again because of this this lie, right? This deceit, right?
Withholding information,
right?
Or whatever,
and lying by omission, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so now you're right back on the ground floor again, right? You're right back to being in the pit of your problem where you were hiding and then lying about it and all that kind of stuff. And so what that does is it reinforces to the injured partner that they can't trust you, right? Because you told them that you were being truthful, and you did probably tell them the truth about what you did say,
right?
But then you left 3/4 of it out, right? And so that's particularly dangerous, because I've heard over and over again from injured partners, the infidelity is bad enough, but the lying about it is worse.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna say
so
that again.
Many times.
Right?
Yeah,
like,
repeat that for the people in the back.
Yeah, the infidelity is bad enough, but lying is actually worse, because it's what happens is when the injured partner finds out that they're being lied to, well, what else did you lie about? Do you not even like tacos?
Like all these years,
right? Yeah,
you said it was your favorite,
right? You know?
Your favorite meal.
So now what? I don't even know you. I can't. I don't know what is the truth and what's not the truth, right? And so it gets into a really very sticky kind of bad place.
Yeah.
Because once trust is gone, it is possible to rebuild that, but it takes time. And we don't live in a society where time is granted to anybody, right? Like we live in an instant society, and people don't want to take the time it takes to repair relationships. I mean, some do, obviously, or we wouldn't be in business, but they want it done now.
Yep,
right?
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and I think foundationally is almost like the difference between stereotypically male and female brains. The guys that come in have a good ability to what's that called when you separate things? I'm losing the word. Yeah, like partition. A good ability to partition those things, whereas stereotypically with females, everything's connected. So that's why, you lied over here. That makes you a liar.
Yes.
You can't just lie about this thing and tell the truth about this thing. Like, how does that doesn't make sense, So it's I think that foundationally is like just two different like viewpoints. You're coming from totally opposite ends of the spectrum,
Women are pancakes and they're waffles. Right?
Exactly. All that I said, and you can just sum it up in one. That's beautiful. Chef's kiss.
Because waffles have partitions, right?
Yep.
And so, but women are pancakes with the syrup on there, and it goes everywhere, right? Like men, there's syrup in this little hole, and there's syrup in this little hole.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to tell you, maybe these 3 wells of the waffle, but I'm not going to tell you the rest, right?
Right.
And men are very capable. I mean, of course, gender stereotypes, right? There's truth to it, but then there's also women that are waffles and men that are pancakes.
Sure,
and
of course.
But women
generally
are generally able to multitask and think about multiple things at the same time, where men are very like very much like a waffle, or very linear is another way to put that, where when we're dealing with this problem, then we're not dealing with all these other problems, right? We're only talking about this problem. And that's why men can fight with their partners all day long and still want to have sex at 10 o'clock at night, because we're on to the next square of waffle.
Yeah,
right?
that syrup doesn't touch this syrup, you know?
Yep.
And side note, comment down below if you prefer waffles or pancakes.
There you go, yeah.
Right, so it's like very like separated and stuff like that. Yeah, that makes sense. So man, and of course we're like zooming, but some other things that I came to mind, you know, like the initial fallout that happens, you know, obviously there's like end the relationship if you're trying to pursue your primary relationship, definitely end the infidelity with that person, you know, maybe get some STI testing, you know, support your partner in that, because you're the one that created the infidelity in the first place. But then one of the big ones too is like, who do you discuss the infidelity with, you know, whether that's kids, whether that's in-laws, parents, whether that's your friends, your whatever other family. Like that's a big one, I think, that comes up, like who do you tell, basically, you know.
And that is a struggle for a lot of people that I've seen as well. They because if the offending partner is seeking therapy, which is often who comes to see us, the two of us, and so they're getting help, right? But the injured party is saying, well, who's helping me, right? Where's my support to get through this? And so the right answer to that is therapy. But like what often will happen is that they will start telling their friends, or they'll tell their pastor if that's a person that's involved in your life, or you know, they'll tell their work colleagues, and that you may get support from that. You may feel validated in your feelings, but what's also going to happen is the offending partner is going to be hurt and shamed by that, because now people know their secret. And I think our natural response sometimes is, well, tell everybody, because then you're not going to keep the secret anymore. But we're skipping the shame part, right? And shame does damage to relationships, both intrapersonally and interpersonally, right? It damages people. And so, you know, doing things that are going to purposefully shame your partner is probably not going to help your relationship. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't get support, because you should, right? But from people that you can trust, like a therapist, where you can share all those horrible feelings that you have about your partner lying to you or whatever, the injuries that you've incurred from that. You should get support for that from somebody who's qualified to help you through that process in a non-judgmental fashion.
Right.
And so it is like there's a lot of really strong feelings about the stuff that we're talking about.
Yep. Well, and you know, on the flip side, devil's advocate wise, for the offending partner, I think sometimes the shame can get the better of them. Obviously, you know, I don't think you tell everyone and their mother about what's going on, whether that be infidelity or porn. But, you know, there has been times where the offending person has been pleasantly surprised by the person that, especially close friends or close like other guys or whatever, be surprised by the support that they'll get from sharing about this. And also keeping it a secret too much isn't good whether that's porn or infidelity. It's not good for you to maintain staying away from those behaviors. You know what I mean? So on the flip side, I think the offending partner can push a bit to be like, okay, well, this may not turn out as bad as I think, you know what I mean? But again, the shaming on purpose is a different story.
Right, exactly. Yeah. If you're going to be like, look what a SOB my partner is.
You're like, no.
But I've even had, clients of mine who were the injured, the offending partner. At the end of therapy, they want to tell people what they did. They want to tell people in order to help others who might be making the same mistake, right? So I think that is a natural part of the process. even for them. So they've gone from please don't tell anybody, and I don't want to talk about this even with you anymore. And then when they go through therapy and they've kind of processed all of this and worked through it, then they do want to tell people to help people. And then I sometimes will caution them, like, you need to be careful who you tell, because you might still get judgment from people. But also they have been pleasantly surprised at people's reaction to it where it wasn't shaming.
Right.
But then I've had people where they tell people and they are shamed for it. So.
For sure. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, again, overall, I think it goes down to the togetherness. Like, what are you as a couple doing? And what do you as a couple agree on? What makes both of you comfortable? How does this fit into how your needs are going to be met too? I think it has to start from the couple, or from and in therapy or whatever. Like, what do they want first? And then the other things fit in after that, The same with, like, another thing that came to mind too was like monitoring software or whatever, like the partner going into the offending partner's phone, that can also can go to a next level. But it's like, how much are you comfortable, both of you, doing that, like giving your phone or having the partner have your passcode or whatever. But there has been situations where partners have, like, literally monitored and seen their texts and can see their, like, screenshots and stuff, like, to an extreme, you know what I mean? So there's that balance in that as well, I think,
I've had clients where the injured partner knows every app that they download. The injured partner knows every app that the offending partner has downloaded on their phone. They get notice every time they deleted an app from their phone. They get notice every time the offending partner speaks into their phone to, like, ask for directions to some stranger's house. I've learned more about surveillance from being a therapist. I feel like I could have a side gig as being a private investigator.
NSA or something.
And so there is a lot of that goes on, and I think those are attempts to see if I can trust you again, right? So I'm going to check up on you, and I'm going to ask you for your phone, or while you're in the shower, I'm just going to take your phone and go through it. And so, I think those are, like I said, attempts for the injured partner to see, can I trust you again? Can I start to trust this or rebuild this trust in this relationship? And rebuilding trust is awesome. I love it. However, when you say to your partner, to the offending partner, give me your phone, I'm going to go through it, that immediately elicits shame in your partner, right? And shame, in my opinion, and you can comment if you disagree with me, and I would love to hear your comments. You don't have to just agree with me. I'd love to hear the other ones too. But when your partner feels, shame is always destructive, in my opinion, right? There's never positives in shame. Guilt is another story. Guilt can have some positive effects, right? If you use guilt to change your future. But unfortunately, oftentimes guilt turns into shame right away, right? So, guilt is, I did something bad. So that's a good summary for guilt. Shame is, I am bad, right? So when you say, give me your phone, I'm going to go through it, immediately the person that you're asking the phone from thinks, I am a horrible person, right? They think I'm a horrible person. And so the solution to that is way easier than what you think. Before you say, give me your phone, you should say, I recognize that you're trying and you're trying to improve, and I want to trust you again. I'm really trying to trust you, and it would help me to trust you more if I were able to look at your phone.
Totally different.
Yes. Completely different. Two different things, right? But we leave off those
all the extra
prefacing statements.
Right.
We're just like, give me your phone.
Give me your phone. Yeah. Well, and it's rooted in basically, like, how do I not let this thing happen again? You know what I mean? Like, I want to prevent getting hurt. Basically, that's what it comes down to. All of those behaviors. So if you have that framework, again, I'm speaking to the offending guys. If you have that in mind of, like, they're just trying to protect themselves, that's different than, oh, they're just trying to check up on me. They're just trying to be my mom, and they're just trying to be on top of me. You know what I mean? Like, it's different. It's different.
And it is. And that you bring up a really good point, because from the injured party's standpoint, I hear a lot of comments like, I should have known. I was so stupid to believe him all of these years. And, you know, he just kept fooling me over and over and over again, and lying to me and manipulating me. And there's something wrong with me because I fell for all of that. Right. And so when they ask you for your phone, they're trying to prove to themselves, he's not going to fool me again. Right? I'm going to nail him. I'm going to catch him. Right? They're not doing it to hurt you. They're doing it to prove to themselves that they're not going to be fooled again. They're not going
to get shit on again, basically.
Yep. So I just think it's important to point that out, that the injured partner isn't trying to shame you, although that's the result of it sometimes. They're trying to repair the breach within themselves of, I should have caught this earlier.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, so that's good stuff. We could go on forever, I feel like, but I think the perfect, like, you know, we talked about that initial fallout, you know, and all those things that happen initially, and the lack, the trust or whatever, and naturally the next progression is, how do you rebuild that trust? You know, and that'll be our next episode of what does sex look like after an infidelity? How do you start rebuilding that trust again, and especially in the bedroom and all that stuff. And that we'll talk about that one next time for sure. I think that's good.
And it is possible. It's possible. I've seen lots of relationships get repaired after this. So
Yep. It looks different on the other side of it. It's a new relationship, but that's what happened. And yeah, for sure. Sweet. Yeah, well, thanks for listening. You know, obviously, if you guys have any questions, we're definitely going to be fielding some questions here that we've gotten throughout some of the presentations we've done, and, you know, any social media questions. So look out for that. We're happy to answer questions, and look forward to episode 5 and the finale of our mini series.
Thanks for joining us. It's good to come back.
Yeah, have a good one. The Wet Dreamz Podcast and any content posted is intended for general information, educational, and entertainment purposes only. We are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of this podcast. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professional, diagnosis, or treatment. Listeners should not disregard or delay in obtaining a medical advice for any medical or mental health condition they may have, and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.